In July of 1518, a woman began dancing uncontrollably in the streets of Strasbourg, a city in the Holy Roman Empire, now modern-day France. And she wouldn't stop for weeks. In fact, neither would dozens, then hundreds of other people who joined her. It was the beginning of what has become known as the Dancing Plague of 1518. But before we get into the strange progression of this outbreak, let's set the scene. Our story begins at the tail end of the late medieval period and the start of the early Renaissance in Europe. Strasbourg was a port city situated along the river Ill, an important trade route for merchants traveling between Germany and France. But life was not good for the folks living there in 1518. They were suffering through a long-term famine caused by poor harvests. Disease was rampant, likely including cases of what we today call ergotism or ergot poisoning, a disease caused by a mold on rye that causes hallucinations similar to those induced by LSD. And to top it all off, there was a great deal of religious tension and mass poverty. So, needless to say, the citizens of Strasbourg were pretty desperate for some good news when it came in the form of a 24-year-old woman named Frau Trophäa, who we today call the Frau, which is German for woman. One day in July, while walking down the street, the Frau began dancing uncontrollably. At first, onlookers assumed she'd gone mad. But within a few days, dozens of other people, both men and women, started dancing as well. And within a week, more than 100 people were dancing non-stop. Soon, over 400 people of all ages and social classes were dancing themselves into exhaustion, collapsing from strokes and heart attacks, some even foaming at the mouth and screaming in what eyewitnesses described as fits of laughter and convulsions. Naturally, the officials in charge were pretty scared and confused. But unlike their hysterical contemporaries, they didn't believe this outbreak was a sign of divine retribution or a curse. Instead, the city's physicians claimed it was a natural illness and prescribed the only known cure: more dancing. City leaders set up a stage and brought in musicians, hoping the dancers would find healing through their moves. But this only made things worse, intensifying the mania and leading to even more exhaustion and even death. After weeks of total havoc, authorities finally cracked down, banning public music and dancing. By late August or early September of 1518, the dancing had largely stopped. The survivors were then taken to the shrine of Saint Vitus, a Catholic saint and patron saint of those suffering from neurological disorders, hoping his powers would heal them. Though the dancing plague eventually came to an end, the mystery of what caused it still remains. There are a lot of theories, but no one is 100% sure. Some historians attribute it to mass hysteria, or what today we call psychogenic illness, a collective psychological stress response. Given the intense social pressures and hardships placed upon the citizens of Strasbourg during that time, this seems plausible. Others blame ergot poisoning, given that the symptoms of ergotism align with the dancing plague symptoms, and that the bread consumed by Strasbourg's poor was often made with contaminated flour. Still others blame religious fervor, pointing out that many believed the dancing was a divine punishment or a curse. And of course, there are those who point to a specific neurological disease, epilepsy or encephalitis, as the cause. So what do you think? Was the dancing plague of 1518 more psychological than biological? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And thanks for watching.